Hello students, we were doing the lesson matter in our surroundings. On last turn we had discussed the properties of solids, liquids and gases. Today we will study interconversion of states of matter. This means that the three states of matter, which are solid, liquid and gas, can be changed into each other. Now how can they be changed into each other? A solid can be changed into a liquid when it is heated. Similarly, a liquid can be changed into gaseous form when it is heated. And again, when gas is cooled, it changes to liquid form, and liquid is cooled, it changes to solid form. For example, we'll take the example of water. Water exists in three different forms. When solid ice is heated, it changes into liquid water. And when liquid water is heated, it changes into water vapor. Similarly, water vapor, when it is cooled, it condenses to form again water drops, which is a liquid. And water drops, they cool into solid form, that is ice. So this is the whole process. So all the substances can be changed into these different states. Now here is a triangle chart where it is shown that the changing of solid to liquid and liquid to gas and the change of gas to solid, all are interconvertible. And what are they called? What are these processes named as? So first is fusion. Fusion is also known as melting. This is a change of solid to liquid. Second is freezing. Freezing means a change of liquid to solid. Next is vaporization. It means a change of liquid to gas. Next is condensation. Condensation means change of a gas back to liquid. Last is sublimation. Sublimation means change of solid to gas or gas to solid. This is a direct change. The solid doesn't change to liquid form while changing to gaseous form, and the gas, when changes to on cooling, directly changes to solid form without going into liquid form. So a direct change of solid to gas or a gas to solid is known as sublimation. Now we'll perform one activity, and this activity is to demonstrate the melting of a solid. Means when a solid is melted, so what do we see? What do we observe? So we'll take some crushed ice in a beaker as shown in this figure, and we'll heat it slowly over a Bunsen burner over which a wire gauze is kept. Now in this beaker where the crushed ice is taken, we'll insert a thermometer, and the last end of the thermometer, that is the mercury strip, is inserted inside the crushed ice. Now we'll start heating it slowly, and what do we see? What are the observations? After some time the ice starts melting, and during the melting of ice we'll see that the temperature in the thermometer remains fixed at a certain point. And what is this point? If we'll read in the thermometer, we'll find it is 0 degrees Celsius. Conclusion. What is the conclusion drawn? That the melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius or 273 Kelvin. Means the fixed temperature where the ice starts melting is called the melting point of the ice. And unless and until the whole of the ice has molten, the temperature remains fixed there only. It does not change. And if the melting point of any solid is higher, it means stronger are the forces of attraction between the molecules of that substance. Means less is the melting point of any substance, weaker are the forces between the particles, and if higher is the melting point of any substance means the forces of attraction between the molecules are stronger. So it is a measure of the intermolecular forces of a substance. Now, we have just now observed that during melting of ice, the temperature becomes fixed at one point, which is called the melting point of that substance. So, although during that time we are continuously heating, why doesn't the melting point or that temperature go on rising, although it is still heated? So, the explanation for this is that during melting, the heat supplied to the substance, here the substance is ice, that time when it starts melting, the heat which is supplied to ice, it is used to overcome the intermolecular forces of attraction between the molecules. Means between the ice molecules there are strong forces present which are to be broken down in order to change it into liquid form. So when the heat is supplied to ice, that heat goes on to break these forces of attraction between the ice molecules, and therefore that heat is not given to those molecules, and so the kinetic energy of the molecules does not increase, it remains same, and therefore the temperature also remains same or constant. Whatever heat at that time is going on supplied to that ice, it goes on to break the bonds between the ice molecules, and after melting, the heat supplied to the substance increases the kinetic energy of the molecules, and so the temperature rise. Means that when once whole of the ice has melted and changed to liquid water form, then if we continue heating and then the temperature starts rising, we can observe in the thermometer, because all the bonds are now broken, and whatever heat is now supplied, it will go and rise the kinetic energy of the molecules, and so the temperature rises. Now this heat which was initially given to ice to break the bonds of the between the ice molecules, this is called the latent heat, and in this case it is called the latent heat of fusion. Means latent heat of melting. Ice is melting here, so that heat which is breaking the bonds of ice molecules, it is called the latent heat of fusion of ice. So how can we define this? Latent heat of fusion of ice is the amount of heat energy required to change 1 unit mass of solid, that is 1 kg of solid, into 1 kg of liquid at atmospheric pressure and at its melting point. And the SI unit of latent heat is joules per kg. The latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.35 into 10 to the power 5 joules per kg. This means that in order to convert 1 kg of ice to 1 kg of water at the melting point of ice, that is 0 degrees Celsius, 3.35 into 10 to the power 5 joules of heat is absorbed by ice. Means this much heat is required by ice to break all the bonds inside, and then only it will convert to liquid water form. So the latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.35 into 10 to the power 5 joules. This is quite a large amount. So you have to learn this number, 3.35 into 10 to the power 5 joules. Therefore, ice at 0 degrees Celsius is more effective in cooling than the same quantity of water at 0 degrees Celsius. Ice held in a hand feels more cold because it absorbs this much heat for melting from our hand. When we put ice in our hand, it absorbs, it starts melting because the outside temperature is more. The temperature of our hand is more. So it starts melting, and during melting time it takes 3.35 into 10 to the power 5 joules of heat energy from our hand, so it appears very cold to us. So children, this much for today. Thank you.